Welcome back to the Crypto's Key conversation. We're going to quickly jump into CoinGecko here. We're currently sitting at a $1.79 trillion market cap, currently down 3%. Looking at the top 10 here, Bitcoin sitting at 37,124, Ethereum sitting at 2,662, Tether is Tether, Binance Coin sitting at 371, Cardano sitting at $1.04, Solana sitting at 100, XRP sitting at 60 cents, DOT sitting at $18.89, Terra sitting at 48.21. And as you can see, we have a lot of red and a lot of blood in the market. Obviously, we came down compared to yesterday. Coming over here to the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, we're still in the fear range. We're not in extreme fear. We're in the fear range at 28. Yesterday, we were at a 26. So obviously, there's still a lot of uncertainty, fear that's going on in the market, and just it's affecting all markets. It's not just our market, and we talk about it a lot within our previous videos. So all markets are being hit, and it's just like the regular stock market. As much as we don't like to think, there's some sort of correlation with the regular stock market and then our market. So with that being said, we're gonna start here with this TechCrunch tweet here. It says the SEC is single-handedly wrecking the next stage of the technology development. Michael Arrington from XRP Capital. So we're gonna take a listen and see what they have to say here.
Because the SEC is single-handedly fucking this industry in the U.S. And so we have a few good U.S. investments. Proppy's one, I'm wearing their t-shirt. Another one is Reserve, a company in Oakland, and a couple of others. But 80 to 90% of our investments are in Asia, Europe, and Israel right now because there are actually countries where there's enough regulatory certainty that that entrepreneurs feel safe starting token companies there, blockchain companies there. Here they don't. There's so much regulatory uncertainty, and then add to that the tax burden and the visa burdens of coming here, and then our current federal government's stance on immigration in general. They're just saying fuck it, and they're staying in Singapore or Israel or Europe instead of coming here and starting companies. It is the SEC needs to get their act together, because if they had done that with the internet in 94, 95, TechCrunch and this, none of us would be here. We'd all be living in Shanghai or somewhere else, wherever managed to get their act together. So when the SEC person comes on stage, first of all, I'd kick him out of the conference. But if they actually come up on stage, I'd ask them, like, do you realize you're single-handedly, like, wrecking the next stage of technology development? And how do you feel about it?
So we talked a lot about how we've been affected and how our government officials are hindering and stifling the innovation when it comes to our technology. And he's right. Like, what if they would have done that during the internet age when it came about? We wouldn't have our Teslas and our Apples and our Googles and all that stuff, because they would have stopped it from progressing, and flourishing. So the same things happen in our space. We need that regulatory clarity so we can proceed on, and there can be, like how he said, there can be some confidence in the space that's going to bring in these entrepreneurs and build these companies and build out these blockchain technologies in these digital asset companies to further fight the good fight and further build innovation and have an answer and a solution to real world problems. So absolutely, this is absolutely massive. And obviously they talked about, we have like over $30 trillion or something worth of debt, and we don't have, pretty much we don't have the funds to even cover that. We don't make that within the US when it comes to like the GDP and stuff. So it's like stuff like this can bring in a lot of more jobs, have a lot more revenue coming in, funneling through our, financial system. So it's like, come on, give us the clarity that we need to proceed on. So coming over here, Crypto All US had tweeted, the Ripple case is no small litigation for the SEC. If they lose, I think regulators really have to look in the mirror and ask how far they can take this model of enforcement. So they're referencing this article here on the Wall Street Journal that says crypto trial could reshape how the industry is regulated. A lawsuit between the Securities and Exchange Commission and crypto startup Ripple Labs will test how far regulators can go in enforcing old finance and trading rules with cryptocurrencies. So absolutely, we talked a lot about the effects of this case. It's not just about Ripple and XRP. It's about the entire industry. So if, like how we said, if the SEC wins, they're going to see, how much they can dominate, overreach, and overstep and overregulate this space. Now, if they lose, obviously they're going to lose some power, which is going to set precedent for the entire space in general. So it's vital that, we continue to stand up, surface the truth, surface the lies that they try to, do behind closed doors and slam the door on the rest of, anything outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum and all those things, surface their truth with their own voices, them on video, and just bring out that truth so everyone is aware, so we can bring the fight to them, because obviously they're trying to over dominate and stronghold us when it comes to our ability to invest as investors, and then these companies' abilities to progress on and flourish and grow and be innovative. So absolutely, this is absolutely massive. We're going to come over here. ProCoin News had tweeted, rarely has anything gone as bad as this case has gone for the SEC. They never thought we'd fight back like this. They never expected how decentralized XRP holders were. So they have an article here where they're saying international XRP investors take aim at the SEC with conflicts of interest. So obviously we talked in our previous video about how John Deaton in the class action lawsuit has been massive. Have over 63,000 members in that. And then he set up the link to where you can send a letter to your congressman or congresswoman to kind of inform them of what you need. And then also he has the whole international side of it. So it wasn't just about United States investors. He wanted the international investors' voices to be heard as well, because it's not just the U.S. investors that's been hurt by what the SEC has done to, dropping a lawsuit on Ripple. It's international investors as well. So he started building a community of international investors that, trying to get their voices heard and trying to start a petition with that, so we can continue to bring the fight to the SEC. And they didn't expect all this. They didn't expect us so-called Twitter sleuths and our internet investigations and just the community in general just being so diverse and how they say it, being decentralized. They didn't expect all of us to come together and bring the fight to them. So we're going to continue to do that. Coming over here, DJ Peter Voss has said, Gary is not the right person for his role. He simply cannot give a straight answer for anything. He must be removed immediately. So we talked a lot about Gary Gensler and him not being able to answer the simple question of, is Ethereum a security or not? He won't give that answer to it. And this obviously was an old video, but we're going to play it and kind of listen in and see how Gary's responding to these questions here.
Turn to cryptocurrencies. And my time is limited, so I'm going to try to do this as efficiently as I can, Mr. Chairman. But I think I know your position, among other things, is that not all cryptocurrencies are inherently securities, right? That's true.
There are a small number that aren't, but I think that, as Chair Clayton said when he was in front of Congress, I think very many of these facts and circumstances are investment contracts.
So here's my concern. So some are and some aren't, is basically what you're saying. And I'm concerned that the SEC has not provided sufficient definition and explained how it would apply the Howey test, which I think is the court standard for determining when something is an investment contract. So for instance, stable coins do not have an inherent expectation of profit. They're just linked to the dollar. Now you might use them in an attempt to make a profit, but that's a second order activity. Is it your view that stable coins themselves can be securities?
I think that, Senator, they may well be securities. As Thurgood Marshall wrote in the Reeves opinion, in defining the scope of the market that Congress, wished to regulate, Congress painted a broad brush, and it actually included about 35 different things inside the definition of a security in the 33 Act.
I've just got limited time here, so I acknowledge that. Here's my problem, though. I think what you just said was that they may be securities, or that some are securities. To me, a stable coin doesn't meet the second prong of the Howey test, that there has to be an expectation of profits from the investment. And so if it doesn't meet the Howey test, it looks to me like it's not a security. Now, maybe you've got a good argument for why some are and some aren't. My whole point is, I think we need to have clarity on this. Turn to crypto.
So absolutely. I mean, it's quite clear that we need clarity. There's no standard. There's no, nothing in black and white that say, hey, here's how you can operate. As long as you fall within these guidelines, you're good to go. There's nothing there. And even if we do come to have regulatory clarity, which, hopefully it happens sooner than later, is it going to be fair? Is it going to be just? Is it going to be something that doesn't, like how we talk about, stifle innovation within the space? Is it truly going to allow the space to flourish and grow and expand? That's the big concern I have. Obviously, the writing's on the wall. You have countries adopting it. You have cities adopting it. You have people trying to get, cryptocurrencies and their salaries and their payments. You have just so much adoption happening day by day by day. And it's like, okay, when we do have the clarity that comes in, is it going to be right? Is it going to be the right clarity? Is the SEC and the government officials within the United States going to do the right things? Are we going to have a governing body that is specific to handling, the crypto space? Because it's not like any other space. It's unique in its own way, and it needs to have a designated agency developed that are knowledgeable within the space, that know all the ins and outs of the space, that can fairly regulate this space. So there's a lot more questions that comes with just regulatory clarity. And I think it was it Congressman Tom Emmer, the person that asked Gary Gensler if he felt like he was our daddy. And I thought that was absolutely massive. I'm glad he asked him that question, because like obviously he said, there's no disrespect here, but like, do you feel that you're their daddy? It's like, yeah, like who the hell are you to say, okay, a security is you got to follow the 4 prongs of the Howey test, but then you have your own spin of, it may not, per se fit the prongs of the Howey test, but, it can be classified as security. It's like, okay, well, you're kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth. It's like, okay, at one point you have to fulfill all 4 to be a security. And on the other hand, there's some like gray area in there. It's like, okay, well, what is it? Come on now. You're not nobody's daddy. You're hurting the so-called investors you're set out to protect. It's just the reality of what it is. You're trying to protect yourselves, but who are you really trying to protect? Who are all those members in that 63 email that went out? Who are all the members behind those closed door meetings that you've been having in secrecy? Who are you getting on the phone with when it comes to your public calendar? You're definitely not talking to the 63,000 plus, XRP investors that you're so-called set out to protect. And you can't even answer a question of whether a certain digital asset is a security or not. It's quite interesting. So coming over here, we have Digital Asset Investor had tweeted. It says, no doubt the SEC, Federal Reserve, CFTC, Treasury have a bigger play they don't want us to know. They didn't count on John Deaton or decentralized XRP holders working to find the truth. The truth will set the United States and the world free. The truth will set the United States and the world free. Absolutely. And we have the truth on our side. We truly believe we are on the right side of the law, on the right side of history in every aspect. And we're going to keep continuing to push that narrative and bring the fight to them. So he's responding off of Jimmy, I think it's Valet's tweet here. He says, what if the SEC is hiding the answer to Mr. Swerkin's question in the 63 emails they're refusing to produce? So we just talked about that. Like, is this ever going to surface, or is this going to be suppressed forever? That's what I'm curious about. Will the truth really come out of, who were the players behind the Ethereum free pass? What was their agenda? And who's all part of, the purchasing initially of the Ethereum when they were trying to hide those purchases? Like, who are the parties involved in this whole scandal? I wonder if that's ever really going to surface, or if it's just going to be suppressed and hidden forever. I'm going to end here with Hassan. It's HFinTech's tweet. Always has some solid tweets here. It says, while the others are on fake rise, XRP is getting ready for a real mega run. I mean, absolutely, I believe it. What do they say? The higher, or the longer and more solid the base, the higher in space or whatever. So the more we consolidate and we kind of bounce off these major levels and haven't really ran yet, they apparently were supposed to run harder. And obviously we know, per history of the market, XRP tends to be one of the the laggards and the last ones to run. So we're all anticipating a massive run when it comes to XRP. So I kind of like seeing the positivity. I have a lot of other assets that I invest in. So, I hope and pray that all the other assets run hard too, but definitely been waiting on XRP, been accumulating since late 2017. So it's about time we get this thing rolling. But with all that being said, I just wanted to kind of share my sentiment on kind of what's been going on lately. But with all that, stay strong out there. Be safe.